I should have known something was off the minute I walked into that boardroom. Nathan had that look, too polished, too confident, like a man who'd already made the winning move before anyone else stepped on the chessboard. My name is Gabriel Sharp. I'm 42, live in Palo Alto, and until about 20 minutes ago, I was head of product development at SharpNet Systems, the cybersecurity firm my father founded and I helped build from the ground up. That is, until my big brother Nathan, the newly minted CEO, decided to rip it all out from under me. I was halfway through presenting our next-gen encryption rollout when Nathan interrupted. "Let's pause there, Gabe," he said casually, like we were in some brainstorming session, not a quarterly board meeting. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Nathan. Effective immediately, he continued, "We're consolidating leadership roles. Product development will fold under strategic innovation, which means Gabriel's position is redundant." He didn't even look at me when he said it. Just kept his eyes on the board, scanning for approval. No one objected. Not Michael Chin, not Valerie Keene, not even old Alan Corrigan, who'd worked with my father since the damn Reagan administration. I felt 100 degrees hotter than I should have. But I didn't flinch. I nodded slowly, as if I'd expected this. Nathan smiled, like that was confirmation. "We appreciate everything you've done," he said. "But SharpNet is moving in a new direction." "Yeah, a direction that didn't include me." I stood, buttoned my blazer, and said something generic about appreciating the opportunity. I didn't mean a word of it. Then I walked out, not just out of the room, but out of the company I'd given my life to. Back in my office, I shut the door behind me and leaned against it. For a second, I just stood there, hands in my pockets, staring at the wall like it might offer an explanation. Then I moved, pulled the blinds closed, sat at my desk, slid open the bottom drawer. There it was, the secure drive, fingerprint encrypted, just as I'd left it 5 years ago. They thought I was just another executive, some sentimental holdover from Dad's era. But I'd seen this coming. Maybe not Nathan specifically, but the tide. The slow erosion of loyalty and blood. I connected the drive and tapped in a few commands. Authentication pinged green. Within minutes, I was inside LocusCore's control panel, my control panel. Contracts. Patent rights. R&D timelines. All of it. Every crucial asset that powered SharpNet's last 5 product launches? It wasn't theirs. Not really. LocusCore Solutions had been billed as an external R&D partner. A way to streamline operations and outsource innovation. In reality, it was my firewall. My insurance policy. My future. Nathan wanted me out? Fine. He just fired the one man who knew where the real power was buried. And he had no idea that I'd already begun digging it back up. Mia stared at me like I'd just told her I'd faked my own death. "You did what?" I leaned back in my chair, hands folded behind my head, watching her try to process it. She was standing by the door to my condo, still in her pencil skirt and heels, holding the iced coffee I'd bribed her into bringing. "I shifted the patents," I said. "And most of the client-facing IP. Years ago. Under LocusCore?" I nodded. She blinked. "You've had that shell company running for 5 years and I had no idea." "That's the point. Only you, me, and a very expensive lawyer know what LocusCore really is." Mia stepped further into the living room and set the coffee down, ignoring it. "You're telling me," she said slowly, "that every major piece of code, every breakthrough system we sold to clients like Dominion, Trigatech, Helix AI, all of it, belongs to LocusCore?" "Every last line of it," I said. "And every contract SharpNet signed in the past 5 years ties performance to LocusCore-led implementations." She sat down on the edge of my sofa like her legs had given out. "I thought LocusCore was just our R&D farm," she said. "It was. Publicly. But under the hood, I've been routing everything through LocusCore, licensing the tech to SharpNet, not giving it away." "But won't Nathan notice?" I raised my eyebrows. "He's already too late. The contracts are solid. Legal did their due diligence my way. I made sure every license, every dependency, flowed back through LocusCore." "Jesus." She let out a low whistle. "You really planned for this?" I didn't say anything. Just gave her a tired half-smile. After a long pause, Mia stood and grabbed her bag. "Well, screw it," she said. "If you're in, I'm in. I'm quitting. Effective now." I sat up. "Mia, you don't have to, eh?" "I want to," she interrupted. "They can keep their bloated exec titles and fake smiles. I'd rather build something that actually means something." I exhaled through my nose, grateful in a way I couldn't quite say out loud. We were halfway through drafting a priority list for server migration when my phone lit up. "Private number." I answered. "Gabriel Sharp." "Gabriel, it's Felix Grant," came the voice. "Dominion Bank." I looked at Mia, then mouthed, "Dominion." She raised her eyebrows and started taking notes. I heard about the change in management, Felix continued. Frankly, we're a bit confused over here. Nathan's team reached out this morning and redirected all communications through a new project lead. But our systems are tied to your oversight. What's going on? Don't worry, I said smoothly. We're transitioning. Nothing changes from your end. Locust Core will continue managing your service line directly. Felix was quiet for a beat. You're not at SharpNet anymore, are you? Not officially, I said. I see. His voice was steady but clipped. Well, let me be clear. We didn't sign with Nathan's team. We signed with you. Your people. If that changes, we walk. Understood, I said. And Gabriel? Yeah? You've always delivered. Don't make me regret sticking with you. He hung up. I put the phone down and looked at Mia. She smirked. So, we've got a company. We've got IP. And we've got Dominion. I smiled back. Let's build a damn empire. It started with a buzz, a soft vibration from my phone at 7:13 a.m. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen since last quarter's client summit. Aaron Penn, Novix Systems. I hesitated, then answered. Gabriel Sharp. Gabe, is it true? No hello, no preamble. That depends, I said. They pushed you out? He asked. Nathan's the new face now? I exhaled slowly. They're restructuring. A pause. Then Aaron laughed, bitter and sharp. Unbelievable. The minute we saw the press release this morning, my team flipped. You know how deep our integration with you runs, right? I do. I need to know, he said, dropping his voice. Are you still in the game? I never left, I told him. We're operational under Locust Core. Another pause. Then, send me the new contact protocol. My CTO and I want to jump ship before Nathan's clowns screw up our infrastructure. By 9:30 a.m. it was chaos. Mia, sitting at my kitchen island, was fielding messages like a human firewall. She had 2 laptops open, 3 phones buzzing, and a color-coded spreadsheet tracking which clients had reached out, which ones we'd responded to, and which were already re-signing. Everywhere we looked, the narrative was clear. Clients didn't care about SharpNet's name. They cared about my team. Felix Grant's call had started the cascade, and now it was a flood. By mid-morning, we'd heard from 7 more clients, including a military logistics firm that never called unless something was burning. It was Ava Lynn's message that hit differently. She'd been one of the few people at SharpNet I still trusted, head of global operations and the kind of person who could make a 20-person disaster disappear with a 3-line Slack message. Mia flagged the email and read it aloud. Gabe, I want in. I've briefed my team and they're ready to go. You give us a signal, we walk. You don't owe me a damn thing, I just believe in what we built. And I don't trust Nathan not to burn it to the ground. Let's talk tonight. Ava. Mia looked at me over the top of her screen. She's serious. Yeah, I said. I know she is. That night, we worked out of my living room. The kitchen was a disaster, half-drunk coffee, takeout boxes, a knocked-over Red Bull can that stained the edge of a legal pad. But the energy? It was electric. We weren't scrambling, we were constructing. Every call we took meant someone choosing to follow us. Every signature on a new contract was another brick in the foundation of Locust Core. I signed the last infrastructure deal just after midnight, a provisional agreement with a Tier 1 cloud provider that guaranteed 90-day service with full migration support. Mia leaned back in her chair, eyes bloodshot but smiling. We've got backup servers in place. Payment portals routed. Legal structures mirrored in 2 states. We're not just surviving, I said quietly. We're winning. That's when my phone rang again. This time, the number came with a name I knew too well. Shelley Kramer, exec assistant to CEO. I answered. Gabriel, she asked, tentative. Nathan asked me to reach out. There's an emergency leadership meeting tomorrow morning. They'd like you to attend. I let the silence stretch. I'm no longer an employee, I said finally. They're hoping to discuss a resolution, she said carefully. Tell Nathan I'll send representation, I said, and hung up. Mia raised an eyebrow. They're panicking. They should be, I said. Because now, they didn't own the tech. They didn't own the contracts. And they damn sure didn't own me. Nathan wanted a show. What he got was paperwork. I didn't walk into that boardroom the next morning. My chair sat empty, a symbolic echo of the one they tried to yank out from under me. In my place sat a man in a charcoal gray suit and wireframe glasses, Daniel Baird, my attorney, calm, courteous, and carrying a folder that weighed more than his briefcase. He didn't need to do much talking. By the time Daniel handed out copies of the original licensing contracts, cross-referenced IP filings, and notarized service agreements between Locust Core and SharpNet, the boardroom had gone completely still. The documents made one thing painfully clear. SharpNet didn't own the backbone of its own systems. Locust Core did. Nathan tried to spin it. This structure was deliberately misleading, he said, voice steady but strained. It was a betrayal of fiduciary trust. Gabriel used company resources to build a parallel vendor relationship that undermined internal capability. Baird didn't flinch. All contracts were reviewed and approved by your own legal team at the time, each one tied to performance clauses. SharpNet didn't buy the IP. It leased it for 5 years. That's what your signature says. Nathan's jaw twitched. Alan Corrigan, oldest member of the board and a fossil from my father's era, cleared his throat. Mr. Baird, in your client's view, what happens if we sever the Locust Core relationship? Baird looked directly at him. Then you lose ongoing support for all patented modules. Dominion Bank, Novix Systems, Trigatech, they'll terminate their service agreements within 90 days, maybe less. The exit clauses are tied to Gabriel's leadership of implementation. Jesus, someone muttered. Nathan snapped. So what? We just fold to blackmail? Not blackmail, Baird said coolly. Business. There was silence. The kind that clings to the walls. Then Valerie Keene spoke up, slowly, like she'd just been doing math in her head. If we lose those clients, our Q3 earnings projections collapse. Locust Core has leverage. More than we thought. Nathan looked around the room and saw it. The shift. They weren't nodding anymore. They were calculating. A vote was proposed, pursue legal action or negotiate a contract with Locust Core to retain Gabriel's services. It wasn't even close. Unanimous in favor of a new deal. That afternoon, Daniel called me from the parking garage beneath the SharpNet offices. They want to retain Locust Core, he said. Long-term. Exclusive vendor relationship. You'd retain operational control of all active systems and set your own price. I didn't answer right away. Just stared out my apartment window as San Francisco glowed in the distance. They fired you, Daniel added. And now they want to pay you to come back as a contractor. The irony wasn't lost on me. They're not getting me back, I said finally. They're getting access. Understood, Daniel said. I'll start drafting the counteroffer. Nathan had tried to make me disappear. Now I was the one holding the keys to his crumbling kingdom. The office smelled like fresh paint and burnt coffee. It wasn't much, just a rented floor in a co-working space downtown, 2 glass-walled rooms, and a kitchenette with a microwave that barely worked. But to me, it felt like a launch pad. The kind of place where things actually started. I stood at the head of a long conference table. My team sat around me. Some in hoodies, some in last-minute blazers. A few familiar faces from SharpNet and a few brand-new ones I'd hand-picked over the past week. Scrappy, smart, unpolished. The kind of people who didn't need their titles printed on brass. Mia passed out the agenda, her hair in a messy bun and a pen already tucked behind her ear. She hadn't stopped moving since we moved in 2 days ago. All right, I said, voice calm but sharp. Locust Core Solutions is now fully operational. Contracts have cleared. Vendors are live. Clients are on standby. There were quiet nods around the table, people absorbing what that meant. No more waiting. No more hiding. We were building in daylight now. The board at SharpNet has accepted our counteroffer, I continued. 3-year exclusive licensing deal. All support services go through us. They're not our parent company. They're a client. Say that again, Ava Lynn said from the end of the table, smiling like she already knew the answer. They're a client, I repeated. Under our terms. At our price. There was a beat of silence and then quiet, genuine laughter. Not the performative boardroom kind. The real thing. The sound of people who'd bet on the right horse. I clicked the remote, bringing up a slide on the mounted monitor. First milestone, onboarding. Dominion, Novix, Trigatech, and Helix AI will transition all service tickets to our system by end of quarter. That means increased support load, but it also means increased billing. Felix Grant confirmed this morning Dominion wants to scale their contract by 30%. Mia gave a quiet fist pump. We've also finalized fulfillment contracts with Tier 1 infrastructure partners, I added. AWS backend, Cloud Shield redundancy, and off-site security audit support. Someone in the back, Marcus, a junior I barely knew, let out a soft damn. I smiled. We're lean, but we're loud. And if we stay focused, we won't just replace what we had, we'll outgrow it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I silenced it, but Mia raised an eyebrow. Go on, she mouthed. I stepped into the hallway and checked the screen. Daniel Baird, voicemail. I called him back immediately. They signed, he said without waiting. Final version. 3-year exclusive. Locust Core retains full control of IP. Payment terms approved. They also accepted the minority equity clause. Equity? I asked. You're getting 5% of SharpNet, he said. Non-voting. No control. Just profit. I leaned against the wall, trying not to smile. They gave up equity, I said. After firing me. Yep. And Nathan? Daniel exhaled. He fought it. Right up to the last meeting. But the board cornered him. Either he accepted the deal or they'd vote to replace him. And they told him to sit down and sign. So he did. I hung up and stood there for a moment, watching traffic inch down Market Street. Inside that tiny office, my team was planning rollout schedules, loading new credentials, drawing architecture on whiteboards with dry markers that barely worked. And just like that, Locust Core wasn't just alive. It was thriving. Under my terms. We met at a brewery Nathan used to love. Some industrial chic place in Menlo Park with Edison bulbs, concrete floors, and IPAs that all tasted the same. It was empty that night, save for a couple of guys watching basketball at the bar, and a bartender who looked like he regretted picking up the shift. Nathan was already there, seated at a corner table. No blazer, just a crisp shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked more tired than I'd ever seen him, like the polish had finally started to wear off. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. No handshake, no small talk. You look good, he said, voice even. I look the same, I replied. You just see me differently now. He gave a tight smile. Fair enough. The waitress came by and we both ordered without looking at each other. Him a lager, me a black coffee. When she left, there was a long pause. Nathan broke the silence first. I didn't expect you to hit back so hard. I sipped the coffee. I didn't expect you to stab me in front of a boardroom full of people who grew up watching us play with Legos. You were standing in the way. I raised an eyebrow. Of what? Of evolution, he said. SharpNet needed a reset. You were too cautious, too attached to Dad's version of the company. And you thought cutting me loose would help you grow? Nathan leaned forward, elbows on the table. I thought it was time for me to step out of your shadow. That one hit harder than I expected. Step out of my shadow? I repeated. Nathan, Dad handed you the CEO role with a bow on it. You walked into the big office on day one while I was still sleeping on a cot in the back room writing code at 2 in the morning. Exactly, he said, his voice tightening. You had the loyalty, the genius, the underdog story. I had the suit. So you resented me for being useful? I asked. I resented you for being the golden son without even trying, he snapped. I was the one doing press tours and investor calls. But every time someone brought up product innovation or retention, it was always Gabriel this, Gabriel that. You were the soul of the company. I let out a slow breath. Then why gut the body? Because I was sick of feeling like a placeholder in my own office. The silence between us stretched. I looked at him, really looked at him, the circles under his eyes, the tired posture, the way his voice wavered just slightly at the edges. He wasn't a villain. He was just a man who'd built his ego on sand and finally felt it slipping. You know what your problem is? I said. You thought respect came from the title. But it doesn't. It comes from the work. And what? He asked quietly. Does that make me? Someone who underestimated the wrong person. Nathan's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Our drinks arrived. Neither of us touched them. He leaned back in his chair, looked at the ceiling, and exhaled. They forced my hand on the contract, he said. The board said it was either you or me. I know, I said. I didn't fight it, he admitted. Not after the numbers came in. That was the closest I was going to get to an apology. We sat in silence for a few more minutes. Then I stood. This isn't personal, I said. It feels personal. Maybe, I shrugged. But this time I win. Nathan looked up at me. No anger, no sarcasm. Just something like recognition. Don't burn it down, Gabe, he said. I paused. I'm not. I'm building something better. Then I left. We didn't shake hands. We didn't hug. But when I looked back through the window as I walked away, he was still sitting there. Alone, nursing a beer he hadn't touched. And for the first time in our lives, we both knew who really held the reins. 3 months later, I stepped onto the rooftop terrace of Aegis Tech Defense's headquarters, an all-glass fortress just outside Seattle. The view overlooked Lake Washington, glinting under a pale morning sun. The man beside me, their COO, wore a blazer that cost more than my first car and a grin like he already knew the future. "I've got to say, Gabriel," he said, clasping my shoulder, "we've worked with the best, but your team, there's nothing like Locust Core out there right now." "We like to keep it that way," I said, managing a polite smile. He nodded toward the servers behind the glass wall. "Hands-on leadership, fast turnarounds, zero red tape. That's rare in your world. Hell, it's rare in ours." Inside, Mia and Ava were debriefing with their security auditors, discussing back-end compliance workflows like they were planning a lunar launch. Our ops team, half of whom had never even stepped foot in SharpNet, were already integrating with Aegis Tech's systems. The contract had been signed 2 weeks earlier. Full-scale platform development, indefinite extension clause, and a 7-figure advance. Our biggest client to date. On the flight home, I watched the lights of the city fade beneath the clouds. It was hard to believe how quickly things had shifted, how much ground we'd gained in so little time. But it wasn't just about the clients or the money. It was about leverage. Power finally redefined on my own terms. By the time I touched down in San Francisco, a message from Daniel was waiting. Subject: finalized agreement, SharpNet. I opened it standing in the baggage claim, barely noticing the world around me. "Gabriel, confirmed. SharpNet's board voted to extend the contract for an additional 3 years under your counterterms. You retain full IP ownership and operational control. In addition, the board approved a clause granting Locust Core first refusal rights on all new infrastructure initiatives. They also forced Nathan's resignation. He'll transition to a non-executive advisor role effective immediately." I stared at the screen for a long minute. Nathan fought it right up to the final vote. But the board had had enough. With the bleeding stopped and revenue surging, all thanks to our support, they chose stability. They chose me. I stepped outside into the cool air, the city humming all around me. Pulled out my phone. No press release. No grand speech. Just a text to Mia. "It's done. We own the room now." A minute later, she replied, "Told you we would." Then another, "Get back. There's champagne in the fridge." Ava's already 3 glasses ahead. I grinned and started walking. We hadn't just survived the storm. We turned it into wind at our backs. And the company that tried to bury me? They were now my biggest client. Locust Core wasn't a backup plan. It was the future. And this time I wasn't building it for them. I was building it for me. The invitation came by text. No punctuation, no emojis. Just 6 words that hit harder than they should have. "Lunch. Me. Thursday. Same place. Dad." Leonard Sharp didn't ask. He summoned. So I showed up. Same steakhouse he dragged us to for every promotion, acquisition, and birthday dinner where he could tolerate pretending we were a happy family. Dark wood walls. A menu older than I was. He was already seated at a corner booth, drinking black coffee and staring at his phone like it owed him something. He didn't look up when I slid into the booth. Just said, "You're late." I checked my watch. By 90 seconds. He finally looked at me, then nodded once. "I heard about the Aegis Tech deal." "Everyone did," I said. He took a sip of coffee. "They say you've built something serious." I didn't answer. Didn't need to. He set the cup down. "Nathan's out." I raised an eyebrow. "Voluntarily." He gave a dry laugh. "No such thing in this family." The waiter came by. We both ordered the same thing we always did, steak, medium rare, no sides. The kind of meal where words mattered more than food. Leonard leaned back, fingers steepled. "The board wants you back." I blinked. "Come again. They're offering you the CEO position. Full operational control. Restructure authority. No board interference for the first 18 months. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. "They'll dissolve the external vendor contract with Locust Core," he continued. "In exchange for a full acquisition. You'd bring your team, your systems, Your rules. So I'd be absorbing them, I said. Not the other way around. Call it whatever you want, he said. You'd be in charge. I looked at him. Hard. You never wanted me in charge, I said. You called me reactive. Said I didn't have the stomach for real leadership. He didn't deny it. I was wrong, he said simply. I didn't see it before. But what you pulled off. Nathan wouldn't have lasted a week in your position. I didn't say anything. Just sat there watching him. The great Leonard Sharp, admitting he was wrong with all the warmth of a machine reading back a stock report. You're the only one who can fix what's left, he added. Bring the company back to something we can be proud of. We? I asked. He looked at me almost soft. You're my son. This was always supposed to be yours. I let out a breath and leaned back. A year ago, I'd have killed to hear that. Yeah? It sounded like chains. You know what I've built, I said. You know what locust core means. Yes. And you still think I want to come back? Step into the wreckage and save a company that kicked me out of my own house. It's not about them, he said. It's about legacy. I didn't respond. Because he was right. And that was the problem. Legacy was a weight. One I'd spent my whole life trying to carry and the last 3 months learning to leave behind. When the check came, he grabbed it. Think about it, he said. They want an answer next week. I nodded once, stood up and left without shaking his hand. Outside, the air was cold, clean. I took a long breath and looked out at the city. They were offering me the throne. But I wasn't sure I wanted the crown.